Greetings and welcome back to Wolf Kage Los Angeles. Looks like Gavin Newsom is at it again. Check this out.
So Gavin Newsom has a plan to address homeless encampments in your city. What he's done is he's created a model ordinance that any city can adopt. And right now, he is on a campaign to teach your city how to address homelessness without looking like a villain on MSNBC. Look, the timing of this is not subtle. Homelessness has gone from this moral crisis to this total political liability, and Gavin Newsom has national ambitions. So suddenly clearing encampments is the top priority. Isn't it weird how that works? The Supreme Court made it easier for cities to remove encampments, and Gavin Newsom, he jumped on it with this model ordinance. It's basically a copy of an ordinance that any city can adopt. I'll pin a link to it in the comments. Here's the deal. If you're frustrated by encampments, it does not make you heartless. Most people aren't mad that someone is unhoused. They're mad that public spaces have become triage centers for a terribly broken system. Now, I'm all for people changing their mind with new information. It's something we could all benefit from. But Gavin Newsom, for years, has listened to the loudest voices in the room telling him to do nothing about homeless encampments. And now this feels a little bit like pandering after years of inaction. Political ideology gives you blind spots to common sense, and this has been a massive one for folks on the left. They have ignored business owners and community leaders saying, you've got to have a practical solution to this and stop demonizing people in the community. And now it's coming back to bite folks. I'm imagining a middle position is going to win out overall, and it's going to start with people like Gavin Newsom changing their tune, whether it's pandering or not.
Well, like I said, Gavin Newsom is at it again. Now he's pulling yet another stunt where he's going to get rid of homeless encampments. Remember, Gavin Newsom ran many years ago on solving the homelessness problem here in California. Not only has he not solved it, but it's gotten exponentially worse. Right now, California, you cannot go anywhere without seeing encampments alongside the road, not to mention trash, not to mention rats, not to mention people on drugs, violence, theft. It is absolutely outrageous. And remember, taxes here are higher than practically anywhere else. They may be the highest. So what are we paying for? Obviously, Newsom would have to be untouchable because there's no way he would be still in office otherwise. There is no CEO of any company, and yes, California is a company, that would still be employed after completely ruining the business. But whoever is paying him under the table, that is affording him a lifestyle where he can buy multiple mansions, vineyards, and so on and so forth, they're making sure that he can't be ousted from his political position. So the question is, if the homeless people are going to be displaced, where are they going to go? That's a question not only has he not answered, but won't answer. And who is going to pay for all of this? Well, we know the answer to that question, but we didn't vote to pay for this type of thing. We voted to pay to end the homelessness problem many, many years ago.
Think about when you take a shower. What do you think about when you're putting on your shoes? Like, where is your head at? Their head has been in the clouds around, DEI, the larger society, ESG, climate, homelessness. I mean, the list goes on and on. But it was on homelessness. We now know, because the state audit came out, $24 billion on homelessness since Gavin took office in 2019. Tucker, homelessness in California increased by 40% under Gavin. Can you believe that? 40%. So, because everyone goes, it's such a curious mystery as to we spent all this money on homelessness, and yet it just increased. It's like, well, yeah, because you spent money incentivizing and subsidizing homelessness. You spent all this money to attract people from all over the United States.
So let's rewind for a second. Remember when Gavin ran for office years ago, promising to end homelessness in California? He made it a cornerstone of his campaign. Big promises. He sounded great. Big speeches. And the public bought it. But fast forward to today, like he likes to do. Not only has he failed to solve the crisis, but like the gentleman said, It's gotten exponentially worse. We're talking about more than 181,000 homeless individuals across California as of the latest 2024 numbers, the highest of any state in the nation. That's nearly 30% of the entire homeless population of the United States, right here in Wolf Kage Los Angeles backyard. Drive through Los Angeles. Try going more than a few blocks without seeing tents lining the freeways, lining the parks, lighting the sidewalks, piles and piles of trash, the stench of neglect, open drug use, crazy amounts of theft out in the broad daylight, mental health breakdowns, violence. We're not living in the California dream anymore. We're living in some sort of Newsom, Karen Bass, Democratic dystopian nightmare. And here's the part that burns even more. California has some of the highest taxes in the nation, as I keep stating over and over again, because that needs to be stated. State income tax, as high as 13.3%. Gas tax, highest in America. Property tax, through the roof. So let me ask you, what are we actually paying for? We were told that our money would fix the crisis, provide shelter, build facilities, offer real mental health services, which is sorely needed. But year after year, bond after bond, nothing improves except the size of the problem and the size of the taxes that we continue to pay. Meanwhile, Newsom, he lives like a king. Multi-million-dollar mansions, private vineyard estate in Napa Valley, lavish campaign dinners. And somehow, after completely mismanaging this crisis, he's still in office. Tell me, in what world does the CEO of any major organization get to fail this hard and still keep his job? It's important to realize that California is a business. And right now, it's bleeding money. It's losing residents. It's turning a once beautiful and still beautiful, once beautiful cities into like basically third world zones. But somehow Newsom is untouchable, it seems. Why? Who's backing him? Who's paying the price behind the scenes to keep him in office, to keep him right where he is? Now, with this latest push to clean up the homeless camps, the question remains, where are these people going to go? I've not heard a plan. There's no transparency, just a photo op, just more optics. And here's the real kicker. We're going to have to pay for it. You and me. Again. But we didn't vote for this half-measure cleanup crew. We voted years ago to end the homelessness problem, not to shuffle people from one street corner to the next like pawns in some political game.
I'm in downtown LA, Skid Row, and I want to point out a few things that's gone on here in the past few years. In 2023, Gavin Newsom set aside $750 million to build tiny homes for people just like this that are surrounding by me. Somehow that money is gone. In 2019, they set aside $24 billion to go towards the homeless. Somehow that money is gone. It's unaccounted for. I want to talk about a few politicians from here. One is Nancy Pelosi. She's been serving these people since 2007. Her net worth is over $120 million. Another person here, Maxine Waters, she's been serving the people here in California since 1990. Her net worth is over $10 million. And Gavin Newsom, who knows what his net worth is, but we know he is building a $9 million home in San Francisco, California. There are leaders, the leaders of California, they failed these people here in Los Angeles and in California. California has actually been one of the highest states in America that people have fled from. Over 66 million people have left California in the last few years, and yet Gavin Newsom, he's out there holding a podcast when he should be working on his state. He might be making a run for it in 2028, and I hope people remember this that's behind me.
Now let's shift the spotlight onto another pillar of this political circus here in California, none other than Nancy Pelosi. Yes, let's talk about the so-called Queen of California, because that's how she's treated. not as a public servant, but as political royalty for some reason. She's been in power for decades, and somehow the longer she stays, the richer she gets, and the worse things become for everyday Californians. Have you noticed how no one in mainstream media ever questions Pelosi? Not CNN, not the LA Times, not the Hollywood elite. In fact, they celebrate her. Award shows, talk shows, red carpets, all pretending she's some sort of modern-day savior. But let's get real for a second. Nancy Pelosi, on a government salary, is now worth over $120 million. Let me say that again. $120 million. How is that even possible? She's never run a business. She's never built an empire. She's been on the public payroll since the 1980s. And yet somehow her wealth keeps climbing like a Silicon Valley startup during the tech boom. Insider trading, allegedly. Convenient real estate deals, stock options that just so happen to skyrocket right after she invests. It doesn't really take a genius to put two and two together. Meanwhile, let's look at the state she helped shape. This was once the Golden State. Palm trees, sunshine, opportunity, the American dream in full color. Now it looks more like a dystopian spinoff. People are fleeing, and not just a few here and there. Over 500,000 people left California between 2020 and 2023. Families left, workers left, businesses shut down, not to mention middle-class taxpayers. They're all running for the hills, or Texas, or Florida, like this is some sort of a war-torn nation, not the supposed capital of progress and prosperity. Then you might ask yourself, and what are the prices doing while all these people leave? They should be going down, right? No, they're going up. Housing, still sky high. Gas, some of the most expensive in the nation. Groceries, outrageous. Taxes, never ending. And for what? What are we actually getting in return? Are our streets cleaner? No. Are our schools better? No. Is crime down? No. In fact, it's the exact opposite. But if you listen to the media or watched Hollywood, you think California is some sort of a utopia. And Pelosi? The wise elder queen keeping it all together. It's propaganda. Plain and simple. A carefully curated illusion so that average Americans, the ones sitting 2,000 miles away, so they won't see the rot under the surface. But we see it because here we live it.
The city of Los Angeles gave $17 million to a homeless nonprofit in Venice, California to house exactly 0 people. So back in December of 2020, the city of LA purchased this Ramada Inn in Venice, California in order to turn it into a homeless shelter. And here is that paperwork: Ramada Inn Marina Homeless Shelter, address 3130 Washington Boulevard, Venice, California. The details of that deal: LA City Council authorized funds to purchase the 33-room Ramada Inn for $10 million, which was then sold to Path for $1. That's not a bad deal for Path, which is a homeless nonprofit. It stands for People Assisting the Homeless. This is their website. You can join the movement, whatever that means. Anyway, the CEO of Path is Jennifer Hart Dietz. Here she is with our esteemed Governor Gavin Newsom, looking like they're up to some serious business. One of them being this former Ramada Inn project that we're talking about, $17 million for 33 units. And here's how that's going. Quote, despite significant funding, the former Ramada Inn has remained empty since October 2022, contradicting earlier reports of occupancy. The total investment in the project exceeds $17 million, with $4.8 million earmarked for renovations, averaging $515,000 per unit. And speaking of costs, the annual taxpayer subsidized salary of Jennifer Hart Dietz is $379,000 a year. And this is according to Path's most recent IRS US $9.90 for them. And Path tells us that the Path Villas opening has been delayed until first quarter of 2025 due to repeated corrections needed for building and safety permits. Although boots on the ground reporting from a homeless advocate named Roofless tells us that the opening has been, quote, delayed indefinitely.
You know what's so funny is that the media, from cable networks to Hollywood talk shows, it's funny how they run cover for Karen Bass and Newsom. It's astonishing. I mean, I can't stress this enough. Flip on The View, scroll through late night talk shows, watch any award ceremony in Hollywood. What do you hear? Crickets about California's collapse. Silence about homelessness. Nothing about Gavin Newsom's billion-dollar failures. Instead, it's all smoke and mirrors, distraction campaigns, scapegoating Trump and patting themselves on the back. Meanwhile, in the real world, our world, Los Angeles is burning, not just literally, but economically, socially, spiritually, from disastrous wildfires that were mismanaged from the top down to billions poured into homeless solutions that somehow led to more tents and more despair, as we just watched on video. Where's the accountability? Where's the coverage? You know, California has the money to fix this. This is not a broke state. We have the 5th largest economy in the entire world, ahead of the UK, ahead of India. Trillions flow into this state every year. Tech, agriculture, film, finance, you name it. If we can build high-speed rail lines to nowhere and give up billions to green energy startups that go bankrupt, we could have fixed homelessness years ago. But it was never about fixing a problem. It was about managing the optics. And now, Gavin wants to take that act nationwide. He's betting that the average voter in Iowa, in Ohio, or Florida doesn't see the needles in the park, the boarded up storefronts, the mental health crisis exploding on our sidewalks. He's hoping the rest of America buys into the PR machine, the image of a slick, confident leader, not the architect of California's decline. The thing is, we know better. Us that live here, we know better. We live it every day. We've seen this state. Once the American dream turned into a walking nightmare for far too many. So here's the question. If he couldn't lead a state with all the money, power, and talent in the world, what makes anyone think he could lead a nation?
Here at 9 o'clock, Governor Newsom says it's time for cities to ban homeless encampments.
Newsom laid out the proposal today, but some are pushing back.
And KCAL News political reporter Tom Waite live in Venice now. And Tom, Newsom detailed billions of dollars in funding.
That's right, Rudabeh and Pat. Tonight, the governor making that bold statement. First off, banning homeless encampments. That's his suggestion. It probably won't go anywhere here in LA based on how Mayor Bass handled the Supreme Court decision that basically said the same thing, that cities and counties could do that. But tonight, the governor saying the state is doing what it can to help fund the programs that cities and counties need. In the battle to end the homeless crisis, Governor Newsom Monday announced he's unlocking more than $3 billion in Prop 1 funding to start building shelter beds and treatment facilities.
We've identified the sites. LA County is receiving over 25% of these dollars in just the first round.
Along with announcing the rollout of voter-approved homeless outreach funding, Newsom also urged cities and counties to ban homeless encampments when people are offered beds inside.
No more excuses. Time to deliver.
Newsom says this batch of billions of dollars is specially designated for facilities that are already being fast-tracked. Critics are already pointing to audits that show the state can't account for billions of dollars it's already spent for incremental improvements. Newsom is also being blasted by housing advocates who say his proposal to ban encampments won't solve the problem, which they say is rooted in unaffordable housing. But the governor also has support.
At the end of the day, this is not good for our neighborhood. This is not good for our businesses.
Councilwoman Tracy Park represents Venice. She spoke with us in front of a small encampment along Washington Boulevard that she says has been cleared 19 times this year alone. Park says the encampment is a strain on the businesses that sit just a few feet away.
But some homeless guys like terrible, and they will get inside to use the restroom to take a shower, and they will bother the customer.
Councilwoman Park says the people who keep coming back to this spot have been told multiple times they can move inside.
We are down to a population of individuals who are either not well enough to say yes when the help and the interventions are offered, and other people who, for any variety of reasons and excuses, simply don't want to go.
In response to the governor's announcement, LA Mayor Karen Bass in a statement says LA continues to see its homeless population drop. She did not directly address the issue of banning encampments, but when the Supreme Court recently ruled that cities could outlaw encampments, Bass said she would not criminalize homelessness. Councilwoman Park says she is going to introduce an ordinance in council Tuesday to adopt the governor's proposed encampment ban.
The United States Supreme Court has been very, very clear that we do, in fact, have the ability to regulate our public spaces.
So, yeah, it is unclear right now what the city of LA will do with the governor's suggestion. I did reach out to several members of the city council here in LA, including Nithya Raman, who chairs the homelessness committee. I did not hear back from any of them.
So at this point, the solution is obvious. We need someone with guts. We need someone with grit. We need someone with zero ties to this California corruption machine. Someone like President Donald Trump. We need him to come in and shine a light on what's really going on behind the scenes. Because let's call it what it is. This isn't mismanagement. It's not incompetence. This is organized theft, plain and simple. They're using our tax dollars to bankroll their own wealth. And everyone's in on it. The politicians on both sides, right and left, many of them are silent. Why? Because silence pays. If you don't rock the boat, you get your slice of the pie. Corporations cashing in on bloated contracts for homelessness services, law enforcement, tech, surveillance systems, all while the problem never gets solved. The media, they keep you distracted, give you a villain that's convenient, tell you everything's fine when you can see with your own eyes it clearly isn't. And for that, they get their check too. But here's the real telltale sign. When someone actually does stand up and ask, where is the money going? They're instantly labeled as a conspiracy theorist or some sort of right-wing extremist or worse. Why? Because fraudsters scream the loudest when the truth comes knocking. They know what's hiding behind the curtain, and they don't want it exposed. And let's be honest, everything about this is common sense. You don't spend $24 billion on homelessness and end up with more tents. You don't raise taxes every year to end up with worse schools, dirtier streets, and rising crime, unless someone's benefiting from that failure. Because here's the uncomfortable truth. Homelessness, crime, chaos. Those things are profitable now. Every crisis is a cash register to these people. More crime means more surveillance contracts. More homelessness means more solutions that never solve anything. More dysfunction means more control. And all the while they stack millions, you and I are falling further and further behind. We can't afford to sit on the sidelines anymore. Because if we don't get involved, if we don't start asking the hard questions, if we don't start demanding answers and holding these people personally accountable, then one day we'll be the ones out on the streets while they sit in their third mansion, sipping wine from their taxpayer-funded vineyards. This is our fight now, not left versus right, not red versus blue. This is we the people versus the corruption machine. Anyway, we'll end it here for today. I'm Wolf Kage, and this was Wolf Kage Los Angeles. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, and share with a friend. Until the next time, peace.